everybody, and welcome to this conference hosted by MS Focus, the Multiple Sclerosis Foundation. I'm your host, Deborah Foreman, the Educational Programs Coordinator for MS Focus, and I'm joined by Dr. Ben Thrower, who will be playing a fun and educational game with us called MS Trivia Holiday Style. In the past, we've only played this game live at the Shepherd Center in Atlanta, and I have to admit one good thing that came out of COVID-19 is that we've now decided to share the game with everyone on Zoom. So now I'm delighted to introduce our speaker. Dr. Ben Thrower is the medical director of the Andrew C. Carlos MS Institute at the Shepherd Center in Atlanta. He previously served as the medical director of the Holy Family MS Center in Spokane, Washington. Dr. Thrower is the senior medical advisor for the Multiple Sclerosis Foundation and enjoys contributing to their quarterly Focus magazine. When Dr. Thrower isn't dressing up as Jack Sparrow, the pirate, he can be found playing with his new grandson, Sam. And Sam isn't so new anymore.
Not so new.
He's not so new anymore. Okay, so let me just explain to people how this is going to work. Dr. Thrower is going to do some trivia, and he's going to give you the answers. But he's going to ask everybody to raise their hand. So some of them we're going to ask you to raise your hand, to physically raise your hand. And then some of them we're going to ask you to raise your hand with the little app that I'll give you the directions for that. Okay.
And then some we're going to have them type it in too, I think, in the chat box.
Yep, you can always use the chat feature. So if you want to raise your hand and use that feature, you have to use the app, or you can send your question via chat. To raise your hand, you're going to click the screen to pull up the menu. You select more, which is that little icon with the 3 dots, and you click raise hand. And I'll unmute you. Then the button will appear on your screen asking if you want to allow me to do that. And of course, you'll have to say, yes, you want me to do that, otherwise I can't. So, or you could just use the chat feature down at the bottom, okay? And then we're gonna do one with the hand up, your physical hand up, and the other one you're gonna use the electronic hand up. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Dr. Thrower, and do your thing.
Absolutely. And so folks, when we're going through, we have some MS educational trivia questions, and then we have holiday trivia questions. So I torture my family every year with obscure, weird things that are floating around in my head that I've seen in movies or whatnot. And so today you get to get tortured as well. Maybe some of you are as nerdy as I am and have useless, trivial things floating around in your head. And if so, you're going to get rewarded for that today. So for each of the questions, I think the MS Focus folks have kindly put together little swag bags. And so we're going to be able to, when you get a question correct, they will get your information and be sending that out to you. We also have a $100 gift card, a Visa gift card, that we will be doing a random number generated drawing from all the people who have registered. But to win that, you have to be physically or virtually present here for the program. And Casey behind the scenes is going to generate that random number, and we will get that out to you. Because we want everybody to be able to participate, if you get something correct, kind of sit back then and watch the rest of the show so that we can try to get something out to everybody. If we run into a spot where no one's answering whatsoever, or if it's too tough of a question, we may let people jump back in again. So hopefully this will be lots of fun. You'll see me looking over here to my other side. So I have my program. You're looking at head on. Mine's off to the side. So I don't want you to think I'm being rude. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy, and let's get it going. So we're going to start off with a holiday trivia question, and we're going to make this a physically raise your hand on the screen question. So what is this monster's name from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and what is his one weakness? We got any physical hands up there?
Yep. Debsy.
What you got there?
Let's see. Let me just get to her and I will unmute her. Hold on, Dipsy. There you are.
Sorry. The unbearable snowman.
And what is his one weakness?
Oh, what weakness? Because oh, I'm sorry, I don't know that one.
You know what? We're going to give it to you anyway, because that's a tough question. Now,
Yes,
so his nickname is the Bumble or the Abominable Snowman, and his one weakness is that he sinks. He can't swim. If you remember on Rudolph.
Well, I can't either.
Oh no! So maybe you're a Bumble.
Yeah.
All right. So Deb and Casey, you guys will be getting the names of who wins each one behind the scenes there.
May I say one thing?
Yeah.
I'd like to tell everybody that at the end, if you won, if you were a winner, I want you to take that email that you received from us telling you how to get in with the link and reply to that, because that's how we're going to use your name and know exactly who you are to contact you to get your address and everything else. Okay.
Very good. So for this next one, I believe it's going to be an MS trivia. Let us do this by a virtual hand raise or type it into your chat. So MAB, monoclonal antibody, the last three letters of natalizumab, ocrelizumab, alemtuzumab, those three letters stand for A, monolithic audiobomb, B, monocytic antigen broth, C, monoclonal antibody, or D, mammalian autoimmune basophil. What is the right answer?
Okay. We have, I just unmuted. Hold on. Let's see. Judy, I just unmuted you. You have to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi there. So what do you got?
Well, you actually gave the answer in the question, but I did know the answer. It's C, monoclonal antibody.
Oh, I did. Oh, you guys are good. You're listening. I'm not caffeinated enough. You are correct. Monoclonal antibody. So if you watch television, you see commercials for a lot of medications that are out there. You'll see a ton of medications that end in MAB. So monoclonal antibodies, these are designer molecules. So if you think about cells interacting with one another, a lot of cell interactions are through receptors on the cell surface. And if you know a step in a health problem, whether it's multiple sclerosis, a cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, if you know the cells that are involved and you know the receptors that are involved, you have the potential to develop a monoclonal antibody and block that step. We also have to show a healthy degree of humility when we're doing this, because the human immune system is incredibly complex. Nothing exists in isolation. And so because you block one step and do a good thing, you need to make sure you're not blocking a step over here that might do something bad. So yep, MAB, worth remembering, monoclonal antibody. So for the next one, why don't we do a physical hand raise for this one? So what drug is FDA approved to help improve walking speed? Is it A, baclofen, B, Acthar gel, C, Tysabri, or D, Ampyra?
Okay, we're going to go with Lisa. Let's find her. Lisa, you are unmuted.
Unmuted. It is something that I cannot be walking without, and it is Ampyra.
You are correct. Good job. So Ampyra has an interesting story. So we've known about potassium channels on demyelinated nerve fibers and their role in conduction block. So about 70% of people with MS have some degree of heat sensitivity or exertional weakness. And those two phenomena are usually it's the same physiologic underpinning. So if you demyelinate a nerve fiber in the brain or spinal cord, that nerve fiber can work, but it doesn't work as well as it used to. And if you exert yourself, or if you raise your core body temperature, or you do that, both of them at the same time, you're going to get conduction block. You've drained the battery, you're going to have weakness, you're going to have fatigue, you could have visual loss, you could have tingling, depending upon where that demyelination is. So by modulating potassium channels on that naked nerve fiber, which is what Empira or dalfampridine does, you can potentially prevent that conduction block. So you may be able to walk better, you may have better heat tolerance, you may have better endurance. So many of you may be familiar with 4-aminopyridine or 4-AP. Same idea. So these are both potassium channel modulators. 4-aminopyridine and dalfampridine are almost identical molecules. 4-aminopyridine is just not FDA approved, but we certainly use it. We've been using it for decades to manage some of these symptoms with MS. So good job. So the next one, we will go to another typed chat room or a hand raise via the button. Which therapy works in a way much like Ocrevus? Is it A, Tysabri, B, Lemtrada, C, Rituxan, or D, Tecfidera?
Okay, we have Mary Beth. Mary Beth, you have to unmute yourself.
Actually, I wasn't responding to this question. I was back to Empira wondering why it doesn't work for me.
Oh, so let's while people are thinking on this question, so that's a great comment. So Empira was shown in the studies to work in about 40% of people that take it. So 60% of people don't get anything at all. And we honestly don't understand that. If you had asked us as these medicines were being developed, what do we think this is going to look like in the real world? We would have bet everybody, or most everybody, would have gotten something out of it. Maybe some people more than others, but it really almost looks like it's an all or none phenomenon. That about 4 out of 10 people take it, love it, do great. 6 out of 10, nothing. And generally, after being on it for about a month, sometimes as little as 2 weeks, which group you're going to be in.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So we got any takers on this one?
Yeah, we're going to do Tom. Tom, you have to unmute yourself.
Yes, hi. The answer to your question is Rituxan.
You are correct. Good job. Absolutely. So rituximab or Rituxan was the original B cell therapy for MS. So Rituxan and Ocrevus, and now we have a generic on Rituxan called Truxima. And there's just been another B cell therapy that has come out called Kesimpta. These are all drugs that work on a receptor on B cells called a CD20 receptor. So these drugs bind to that receptor on immature B cells, and they basically turn off a population of B cells in the immune system. So Rituxan was a drug originally designed to treat non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. When neurologists and rheumatologists looked at what it did, they said, you know what? These B cells play a role in MS. They play a role in rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. So I bet we could use Rituxan to treat some of these conditions. So we were part of the original trials with Rituxan way back in the day. Rituxan works beautifully in MS. It never got FDA approval. Genentech, the manufacturer, made the decision that they were going to make a better mousetrap, and so they tweaked the Rituxan molecule a little bit, came up with an antibody that looked more like a human antibody, ocrelizumab or Ocrevus. We still use Rituxan though. We have plenty of people with MS still on Rituxan. If any of you work with Kaiser Insurance, Kaiser is kind of funny. They actually won't cover Ocrevus for people with MS. They were having people go to Rituxan, which we were fine with. And more recently, they've said, nope, we won't pay for Rituxan. Now we want Truxima, the generic of Rituxan, which we're also fine with. They all work equally well. The dosing of Rituxan and Truxima are exactly the same. So good job. So on the next one, I think we're back to a real hand raise on this one. All right, we're back to holidays. What is the Christian holiday that celebrates the visit of the Magi or three wise men? Is that Boxing Day, All Saints Day, Epiphany, Good Friday, or Black Friday? Let's give a real hand raise. You
Okay.
got any takers?
I'm going to unmute Angela. Angela, you have to unmute yourself also.
Epiphany.
You are correct, Epiphany, or as we say here in Georgia, Epiphany. So Epiphany is January 6th. A lot of people believe that you should, if you celebrate Christmas, that you should leave your Christmas decorations up till January 6th to celebrate the coming of the three wise men. In some Latin American countries, that's a bigger deal than Christmas, is the coming of the wise men. And I don't think I put it on here, but for extra bonus points, can anyone tell me what the names of the three wise men were?
Are they raising their hands?
That's a tough one. It's actually not in the Bible. It's in one of the other ancient texts. And we really technically don't know that there were three wise men. They never say that in the Bible. They say they brought three gifts. We assume it was three people, but it could have been three guys going in on one gift and, you know, two guys on another gift. But in another text, they actually specify their names. We got no takers on that one. Oh, we got a hand.
Okay, Lisa.
Okay, I'm sorry. You said not to answer again.
Answer this one again. This one's yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna mispronounce the last name. Caspar, Balthazar, and Methuselah. I can't. Melchior. Okay, I know I was gonna mispronounce the last name.
That is awesome. Good job. Very good. Now, I think in all the years I asked it, I think I've had maybe like 3 people get that. So you're a sharp cookie. So on the next one, let's go to another electronic or chat. So electronic hand raise or chat box. So which drug works in a way much like Gilenya? Would that be A, Tysabri, B, Aubagio, C, Copaxone, or D, Mayzent?
I don't see anybody.
I tell you, if we don't have any takers,
we have a couple answers in chat, Deb.
Chat. Okay. Let's see.
So I can't see the chat, Casey.
Right.
Our first answer was from Rachel, who says Aubagio.
That unfortunately is not correct. Good try though, Rachel.
Anyone want to take another guess?
Mayzent.
We have some Mayzents. That is correct.
Good.
So Mayzent and Gilenya and now Zeposia are all in a class of drugs called S1P receptor modulators. There probably are more coming down the line. So what's happening as each generation comes out is they're probably whittling the side effects down a little bit. These drugs are interesting in the way they work. So when lymphocytes, certain white blood cells in our body are sort of being programmed and told what to do, they go into a lymph node. And in that lymph node, they're given a job. They don't passively leave that lymph node. They have to be given permission to leave the lymph node. And so what Gilenya and Mayzent and Zeposia do is they don't give permission for that lymphocyte to leave the lymph node. They're not killing any cells, they're just locking them up. So they're not letting them go out and cause active inflammation. These are very effective medications. It is interesting when you look at lab work, when we do safety monitoring, and you have to kind of sometimes warn your primary care doc if you're on one of these medications, because if a healthcare provider wasn't aware you were on it and looked at your labs, they could think something was very wrong, because your white blood cell count is probably going to be low. Your lymphocyte count is going to be very low. but the cells are there. They're just locked up. We can't measure them because they're not circulating in the bloodstream so that we can check them. So it's an interesting class of medications. So I think we're back to a real hand raise for the next one. What is a type of primary MS fatigue? Is it anhedonia, lassitude, altitude, or borborygmi?
Let's go with Karen. Karen, I believe you need to unmute yourself.
Lassitude?
That is absolutely correct. Good job. So lassitude is one of the two primary types of MS fatigue. So we talked a little bit ago with Empira about nerve fiber fatigue, so exertional heat-related fatigue, and this is the other common type of fatigue. So this is non-exertional, non-heat-related fatigue. Someone just suddenly unplugged your energy supply. So you want to do an activity, but your body is just physically not going along with that. That kind of, so some of these other terms are important. So anhedonia. Anhedonia is a Greek term for a lack of hedonism. It means you don't have a desire to do things that would normally be fun. You don't have the desire to go to a movie. You don't want to watch your TV show. You don't want to go out to dinner with friends, but not that any of us can do much of that right now anyway. So it's a lack of desire to do something that would be fun. One of the challenges sometimes is sorting out anhedonia from lassitude. You can have both. And so if, let's say that there was a movie you wanted to go see and you've been really looking forward to it, the night comes to go to that movie and you just can't do it. Is it because you're physically too tired to do it, or is it because you don't actually have the desire to do it? And sometimes one day it may be one and one day it may be the other. If it's a lack of desire, that's a symptom of depression. If it's a lack of physical, energy to do it, that's probably more directly MS related. Altitude has nothing to do with MS. Borborygmi is a term we've tortured our children with. They're grown now, but when they were little, we would draw out obscure medical terms for them to learn. So borborygmi is the official term for your stomach grumbling. So if your stomach's rumbling right now, you are suffering from borborygmi. So let's go to, I think we're back to a real hand raise on the next one. Oh, one of my favorite ones. What was the dog's name and how the Grinch stole Christmas? We got any takers on that one?
Nope.
Okay, we can go back to someone who's known it before. Lisa, what's the answer?
I'm sorry, I have a 5-year-old grandson, Max.
That is absolutely correct. Good job, Max. Yep. Yeah, if you have kids or grandkids, so I think both are good. I don't think they could have picked a better actor than Jim Carrey to do the movie version. And I was really skeptical when it came out, but I think he knocked it out of the park. It's different than the original cartoon version, but still really good. So let us do we're going to go back to the virtual hand raise or chat box on this next one. Which drug has been shown to slow disability progression in primary progressive MS? Is that A, ocrelizumab, B, placebozumab, C, daclizumab, or D, alemtuzumab?
Dr. Ben, did you say hand raise or the electronic hand
Do
raise?
electronic, this one.
Okay. Whoops, there we go. How about, I like that name. Let's do Debbie.
The A or ocrelizumab.
That is absolutely correct. So ocrelizumab is the only drug that is FDA approved for primary progressive multiple sclerosis. B is obviously some marketing person's made up name. C, daclizumab is a drug that came on the market for relapsing forms of MS, but has been withdrawn due to some side effects. and alemtuzumab is Lemtrada, which is approved for relapsing forms of MS. So primary progressive MS has been a challenge. It has been jokingly referred to as the redheaded stepchild of the MS world. It doesn't play by a lot of the same rules. It probably accounts for about 10% of people with MS. It's the only form of MS that is more common in men versus women, and it tends to start later in life. So you tend to see, people in their 40s, 50s, or even later, and it's subtle. So where someone with relapsing remitting MS might say, I woke up on January 1st, 1997 and had optic neuritis. Someone with primary progressive MS is going to say, yeah, this developed over the past 2 years, and it's usually primarily a walking issue at onset. There's not a big inflammatory component, so you don't tend to see active lesions on MRI. It's unusual to see relapses because it's primarily a progressive issue. And again, ocrelizumab is really our only therapy that's been shown to potentially slow that down. Good job. So this time, let's do a real hand raise on this next one. Myelin is mainly made up of A, protein, B, carbohydrates, C, fine Corinthian leather, or D, fat. You got any I see some real hands going up.
Okay, I see Barbara. Barbara, unmute yourself. There you go.
Protein.
Protein is unfortunately not correct. So a lot of people guess that one because we talk about myelin basic protein. So protein is a part of myelin, but it actually only accounts for about 5% of myelin. So something else accounts for over 90%.
I don't think we have anybody else raising their hand. Whoops. Well, let's see if we can get somebody new. Casey, I did see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, we have an answer in chat from Rachel who says D, fat.
That is absolutely correct. So if you look at myelin in real life, in a brain specimen, it looks really shiny. And it's shiny because it's mainly made up of fat. So there is protein in it, myelin basic protein, other proteins, but it is mainly fat. I'm kind of sad that no one chose fine Corinthian leather. So for bonus points, and you're going to show your age when you answer this. Who knows what fine Corinthian leather is? We got a hand up. Deb's up. Now I'm up. So who of the participants wants to shout it out or chat it out? Getting any takers? The fine Corinthian leather was Ricardo Montalban in the Chrysler Cordoba. So if you remember the commercials from the 1970s, and he points to the seats and says, and it's got fine Corinthian leather. So just FYI, there is no such thing as fine Corinthian leather. Ricardo Montalban totally made that term up, and it sounded so good when he said it that the Chrysler people just went with it, and they actually called their leather fine Corinthian leather. So we're going to go to, are we to virtual or real hand raise on this one, Casey? I've lost count. Let's do a real hand. Let's do a real hand raise. So raise your hand for real on this next one. Ooh, good one. How many ghosts appear to Scrooge in A Christmas Carol? Let's see a real hand raise if you know that one.
I actually see a couple. Let's go with Brian since we haven't called on him yet. Brian, unmute yourself.
I believe there was 3.
And that's the answer. I love the hat, by the way. That's the answer that most people say, and it's unfortunately not correct.
So there was the 4th ghost.
There you go. We're going to give you credit. So there's the 4th. So people forget poor Marley, who appears to him at first and tells him about the other three. And someone asked, throw me a curve recently. So if you remember in any of the movie adaptations or in Disney's, which I think Disney's Christmas Carol is the best one ever, if you haven't seen it, it's animated, but really good. So when Scrooge walks up to his front door, his door knocker becomes a ghost. And so someone said, well, there could be 5, but that ghost is actually also Marley. So it's Marley twice. So there's really 4 so you've got Marley and then past, future, and I'm sorry, past, present, and future ghosts. Good job. We're gonna give you credit on that. So on our next one, let's do a virtual or chat. And the question is, PML stands for progressive multifocal lymphopenia, B, primary multifocal lymphedema, C, progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, or D, pyloric metachromatic lipodystrophy.
Let's see. Don't see any hands up. Let's see.
We have another guess in chat.
Okay. So,
or we now have a couple of hands raised. Debbie, what do you prefer? Dealer's choice.
Let's do Rachel. Right?
Okay. Yes.
Yep. So Rachel says monoclonal antibodies to Sabri.
Oh, no, she's further down. She says progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy.
that is absolutely correct. Good job.
And thank you for saying that, Casey.
You did good. So PML, progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, is an opportunistic infection. If you're watching television and they're advertising a medication, frequently a monoclonal antibody, or maybe an immunosuppressant drug for some other non-MS health condition, you'll hear them say this medication has been associated with a rare brain infection. They're referring to PML, progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy. We have another question about what causes that, but this really showed up on our radar with natalizumab or Tysabri back in 2004. If you recall, Tysabri got FDA approval in late 2004, had been on the market for only a couple of months, and 2 cases of PML popped up. And the drug was voluntarily withdrawn from the market, was off then until summer of 2006 when they put it back on. And we have come light years in our understanding of PML, in our understanding of giving people good advice about risk factors for PML and helping people choose appropriate medications and manage PML. The way that we would like to manage PML is by never seeing PML. PML can be a devastating disease. In the MS world, about 25% of people who have contracted PML as a side effect of a therapy, about 25% of people have died from it. Of those that survive, there can be permanent disability. So it is very serious. And again, the best way to deal with it is to prevent it in the first place. So we're going to go to a real hand raise for this next one. PML is caused by A, Epstein-Barr virus, B, Jakob-Creutzfeldt, C, trickle-down economics, or D, John Cunningham virus. Let's get a real hand raise.
Okay, we have Karen. Karen, unmute yourself, please.
Or B or D, but I think it's D.
So we have a D, John Cunningham virus, and that is absolutely correct. So the JC in JC virus stands for John Cunningham. John Cunningham was the first human who was identified as having PML, and where they identified that virus. So PML was originally described in the AIDS population, but once it was identified and sorted out as being due to this this John Cunningham virus, we realized we'd seen this before, that it wasn't new. We had seen it in chemotherapy recipients. We had seen it in organ transplant recipients. So the common thread with all of these conditions, they are conditions where the immune system has somehow been altered. It's one of the reasons why it was a little shocking when it popped up in Tysabri individuals, because Tysabri really isn't an immune suppressant. Tysabri is an antibody that very specifically just keeps inflammatory cells out of the brain and spinal cord. But by doing that in individuals who have higher levels of JC virus in their system, there is a risk of that letting the JC virus actually traffic into your brain and spinal cord and causing PML. Again, we've learned a lot over the years about how to risk stratify individuals with our different MS medications. We do have now JC virus antibody index testing. When Tysabri was first pulled from the market, we had no way of knowing what someone's JC virus status was. Now we can give you a numeric value, and that numeric value represents how much antibody you have. That antibody is being made to the form of the virus that would like to go to your brain and spinal cord. The normal human immune system is not going to let that happen. And our job in the healthcare world is to not do anything to your immune system that would let that happen. So good job. Jakob Creutzfeldt's a scary one that I put up here. So Jakob Creutzfeldt is in a class of diseases called prion diseases. Prion diseases are like bad science fiction. So prions are smaller than viruses. So a virus, goes in, is a very small organism. It goes into your body and kind of hijacks some of your genetic machinery to make more of itself. Prions are even smaller than that. So prions are just technically little pieces of DNA or RNA, but they can go in and hijack your DNA and tell your DNA to make more of themselves. They're so small that your immune system does not actually recognize them as being foreign. So they just take off and go wild. Your immune system does absolutely nothing to stop it. And these, unfortunately, are almost uniformly fatal diseases. So fortunately, they are exceedingly rare. Mad cow, you heard a lot about a few years ago. Mad cow is the animal version, a cow version of a prion disease. There's one that's specific to deer called hind limb wasting disease. So there are several of them out there, but they are fortunately very, very rare. So we're going to go to a virtual or chat box answer this time. So Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is a celebration of family, community, and culture. How many candles does a Kwanzaa candle have? And also each of these candles represents one of the pillars or principles of Kwanzaa.
Dr. Thoreau, the first one to answer that was Terry, and she said 7.
She is absolutely correct. There are 7 Kwanzaa candles. Good deal. Good job. Oops. So for this one, let us go to a real hand raise. What is it called when you bend your neck and get an electric sensation in your arms or legs? Is that the A, ow it hurts syndrome, B, Lermite sign, C, Uthos phenomenon, or D, Babinski sign? We're doing a real hand raise on this one.
Okay, let's see if we can find somebody that hasn't done it before. Barbara, I'm not sure if you did it or not, but let's unmute you. You have to unmute yourself.
I did. B.
B,
Actually,
yeah, you absolutely correct. Good job. So Lermite sign, Lermite was a French neurologist, late 1800s. There were no MRIs, there were no spinal taps. And so there were a lot of the neurologists. So Lermite was a neurologist at that time. Uthos was actually an ophthalmologist of that time. Babinski was a neurologist at that time. They were all looking for physical findings that might point you to a certain diagnosis. And so Dr. Lermite described that when people bent their neck forward, if they got funny tingly sensations or electric shock-like sensations, that was frequently MS, and he was right. So Uthoff's is the phenomenon of, so the way Uthoff described it is he put people in a hot tub to see if their vision got wonky because he was an ophthalmologist. And so, but we also use Uthoff's to describe really any heat related symptom. So if your feet get tingly when you get overheated, your legs get weaker, your vision dims out, those are all variations of Uthoff's phenomenon. And that all goes back to that nerve fiber fatigue. So that's that area of demyelination. There's nothing dangerous about Lermite's sign. You know, if you're doing that, you're not causing new damage. If you overheat and have a neurological symptom, that's not dangerous. When you cool off, relax, it's going to go back to normal. Babinski is the way that we torture people in the doctor's office. That's when we scratch the bottom of your bare foot with something unpleasant and cold to see if your toe goes up. So that's an abnormal physical finding. So normally if we scratch the bottom of your foot, your big toe is going to go down or do nothing. With a Babinski sign, when we scratch your foot, your big toe goes up and the rest of your toes usually fan out in that direction. And that means something has bothered your central nervous system. It's not specific to MS. It could be a stroke, it could be a, God forbid, a brain tumor, it could be multiple sclerosis. So a lot of things can do that. A lot of these things, physical or neurological signs that are abnormal in adults are actually normal in babies. Babies are not fully myelinated. So as humans, we don't fully myelinate our brain and spinal cord until we're about 5 years of age. So my wife being a pediatrician and being a neurologist, we used to look for all these abnormal neurological things in our kids when we were in medical school because it's normal in a kid, but it's a good way for medical students to learn about what these abnormal signs look like. So let's go to an electronic hand raise or chat answer for the next one. What form of MS is the most common at the time of diagnosis? Is it A, benign MS, B, relapsing remitting MS, C, primary progressive MS, or D, secondary progressive MS? So type it or hit that hand raise button.
We have, I believe Barbara, Debbie, and Sandra have already answered, correct? Maybe not Sandra. Let's see. So everybody is giving the same answer as B, but Sandra is one that I know has not answered, or at least I think she hasn't.
Okay, we're going to go with Sandra, and Sandra is correct. It is relapsing remitting MS. So 85% of people with multiple sclerosis start with relapsing remitting. So they will have an attack and come in and tell us about it. So primary progressive MS, again, is, you know, the kind of the redheaded stepchild, smaller numbers of people. Secondary progressive MS is a continuation of relapsing remitting MS. So if we don't intervene, if we just look at the natural history of MS, most people with relapsing remitting MS go from this up and down form to a form where there's just slow progression. The goal with early diagnosis and treatment is that maybe we can stop that natural history so that we can keep people more towards the early form of MS where there's minimal disability. Benign MS is a controversial term. Mayo Clinic a few years ago stirred the pot with that and talked about maybe 20% of the MS community following the benign form of MS. And the reason it was a little controversial is, how do you define it? So by benign, I think most people would mean that you really are having almost no symptoms and that it really has not affected your quality of life. I think probably the term we like better is mild MS. There clearly are fortunate individuals out there who are going to follow a very mild course, maybe even without treatment. The challenge that we have is, how do we identify that person when they're diagnosed? We're certainly not perfect prognosticators, and I think most neurologists are pretty nervous about not offering treatment to someone just because we're not perfect at using that crystal ball and saying you're going to follow that very mild course, and I don't think you need to be on treatment. But those individuals are out there. So I think the next one, I think we're back to a real hand raise for this next one. Hanukkah is known as the A, alternative to Christmas, B, festival of remembrance, C, 8 nights of giving, or D, festival of lights. So shows a real hand raise on this one. If we start going around that we're having no novice or no newbies answer, we can certainly circle back to people who've already answered.
Nope, actually, I don't have anybody that I see.
I see a hand down there somewhere. I can't read the name.
Is that Derek? Who is that? Nope, let's see. I don't. Hey, I'm Jewish. I know the answer. Let's.
I see the name here. I see, hold on. I see Barbara.
We do have Barbara. Okay, let's unmute her.
And I can't see, there's a name. Okay, we'll go with Barbara on this one.
Go ahead, Barbara. I unmuted you.
Oh, D, Festival of Lights.
That is absolutely correct. Good job. So what night are we right now?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Oh, someone's handed out their hand. I see a hand down there.
The 6th.
Awesome. Very good. You realize you guys have not missed a single one. So I have a third-year medical student from University of Georgia working with me right now, and you guys should be proud of yourself. He knew none of the holiday ones, so I told him we need to get him watching some movies. So I think we're going to go to an electronic answer, chat, or hit your hand raise button for the next one. The theory that MS may be related to living too cleanly is called A, the Pythagorean theorem, B, the Mr. Clean paradox, C, the dirty double standard, or D, the hygiene hypothesis. So we're going with electronic answers this time.
That must be a tough one. No chats coming in.
No chatting.
And I don't see any hands up.
Uh-oh.
Can you give us a hint?
So I will tell you it is.
Whoops, wait. Before the hints, I just got 2.
Okay.
Well, the first, whoops, a lot of people and different choices. Okay, so Debbie's the first one that said D.
D, the hygiene hypothesis, is absolutely correct. Good job. So the other ones are just totally, well, B and C are made up. A is obviously real, but not related to MS. So the hygiene hypothesis says that our immune system evolved to do something in life. It evolved to protect us from the outside environment, from germs and parasites and whatnot. And it also evolved to protect us from internal threats, cancerous cells. And the hygiene hypothesis says if your immune system is left to its own devices, so you live in a hyper sterile environment, you're living too cleanly, your immune system may get bored and turn on itself. So if you have the genetics to have an overactive immune system, which people with MS do, if you have MS, you have an immune system that works a little too well. You don't have a weak immune system. You have an immune system that works too well, and it's picking on itself. Apologize for the background noise. There's leaf blowing outside. So if you have that genetic propensity and you live in a very sterile environment, maybe you're more likely to develop an autoimmune disease. There are lots of different kind of side tracks that you can go down. If you were to take a global map of multiple sclerosis, what you'll see is that MS becomes more common as you go away from the equator. If you now take a global map of parasitic diseases, it's almost exactly the opposite. So where you see more parasitic diseases, you see less autoimmune diseases. And so the theory there is that, again, as humans, our immune systems evolved. Our immune systems grew up over thousands of years hand in hand with parasites. And so it's really only been in modern times that we've pretty much eliminated parasites. And obviously there are a lot of bad things go along with parasites, but we've largely put a big dent in parasitic diseases. Our immune systems have not caught up to that. They have not gotten that memo. And so when you look at the part of the immune system that handles parasitic diseases, it is the part of the immune system that is relatively underactive in a person with MS. So there is a thought right now, and there's several universities doing this. What if we could fool your immune system into thinking you had a parasite so that we reactivate the part of the immune system that's underactive, but don't actually give you the parasite? And so they're using inactivated worm eggs, roundworms, pinworms, by mouth to make your immune system think that you have that parasite, but you don't actually get the parasite. And there have been some successes. University of Wisconsin, there's a medical center at in Argentina that's doing this. So it's very interesting how humans have evolved, and how sometimes we think we're doing good things, but sometimes there are negative consequences that come along with that. So I think on this next one, it's going to be a real hand raise. Another one of my favorite Christmas movies. What is this boy's name? Throw those hands up if you know the answer. His mother would be very sad right now. None of you know his name. We got not, oh no.
I do have a chat.
You have a homework assignment tonight. You all have to watch A Christmas Story.
Ralphie.
Ralphie, very good. Also, who said that?
Debbie. Digby.
Somebody got it.
Yep, that was Debbie.
Very good.
That was Debbie.
Okay. Just to show that you're a real smarty pants, what was his brother's name? And I'll give you some background on this. So my wife and I do medical work in Nicaragua. And when we're down there, we have college students and medical students and nurses, a bunch of young people, and there's no internet down there. So we were on a bus and we were doing trivia questions, and someone asked that and none of us could think of the answer. And it drove us nuts for the whole week of the trip down there because no one could think of the answer and you couldn't look it up. It's Randy. It says Ralphie and Randy. Yeah, great movie. So let's do an electronic answer for the next one.
Okay. By the way, Debbie did get Ralphie. She got Randy and Ralphie.
Oh, you got, I'm sorry. Got Ralphie.
Debbie got Ralphie.
Awesome.
It was, and Angela got Randy.
Okay, we got a smart group here. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm throwing a bonus one here. So the Christmas Story. Due to these hungry dogs, what did Ralphie and his family have for Christmas dinner? Because the dogs ate the turkey. So what did they have on Christmas Day instead of their prized turkey?
Are they raising their hand or the electronic?
Let's do raise hand. We got any takers? We're calling time on this one, Deb?
I do have Angela.
Okay, Angela, what you got?
Angela, you have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hey, Chinese food.
Absolutely right. Good job. So they went to Chop Suey Palace and had chop suey, that Chinese food on Christmas Day, the ending scene of the movie. Good job. So next one, let's do electronic on this one for the answer. And this one is courtesy of my physical therapist. They threatened me if I didn't put in a good physical therapy question. When transferring from a manual wheelchair to a bed, very first step is A, check your blind spots, B, remove your shoes, C, lock your brakes, or D, perform a few stretches.
Okay.
So some electronic ones. Chat it or hand raise.
We do have, Debbie has an answer, but I want to try to give somebody else the opportunity first if we can. She seems to be one of our star pupils. Okay, let's see in the chat. We have, well, the very first, let's see, out of everybody who's done it, I believe Mary Beth has not answered, and she wrote lock brakes.
That is correct. Good job. All right. So we're going to a hand raise on this one. What does HSCT stand for? Is it A, highly specific cryotherapy, B, hematopoietic stem cell transplantation, C, hairy seals can't translocate, or D, high-speed cell transfusions? I think we're doing a real hand raise on this one.
Okay. I'm looking. I don't see any. Let's go to our chat and see there. There's no chat.
Someone's got their hand up. I'm trying to read a name. Looks like Angela's got her hand up.
Yeah, no, I have Tom. Is Angela there too? Oh, I see.
Angela, I can see her.
Yeah, both Tom and I got answers already. And,
all right.
And it's hemato, whatever it is, stem cell transplantation.
You are absolutely correct. So HSCT is not a new concept in MS, but it's certainly an evolving one, and I don't think it's one that's going to go away. So the idea is if you have an immune system that is picking on something it shouldn't be picking on, your myelin, your axons, what if we could just give you a new immune system? What if we could wipe the hard drive out and start with a fresh hard drive? Let's reboot your immune computer. So that is basically what HSCT is. HSCT is a bone marrow transplant. So when you talk about bone marrow transplants, you're giving someone a new immune system. For a lot of cancers, that bone marrow transplant is with cells from another person. Because, for instance, like with a leukemia, you don't want to use the patient's cells because those are the bad cells. So when you use someone else's cells, stem cells, bone marrow cells, that's called allogeneic. So you're using your brother, your sister, an unrelated, closely matched donor. The problem with an allogeneic transplant is those are not your cells, and your body always has the potential to reject those cells. So that person is always going to be on a mild immune suppressant to try to prevent that rejection. So HSCT and multiple sclerosis is autologous. It is your cells that are being used. So the idea is they're going to, through a blood draw, take immature cells from your bone marrow. They're going to freeze those cells and save them. They're going to use high-dose chemotherapy now to wipe out your hard drive. They're going to shut down your immune system as completely as possible. And then they're going to give you your immature stem cells back. These are immature cells that don't have the knowledge to have MS. And so you get a fresh new immune system at that point. We've learned a lot about this over the years. So back when I first got into the MS world, the mortality rate from this procedure was as high as 5%. Now with current studies, it's down close to 0%. What we've also learned is that there is probably an ideal person for this procedure. And this is knowledge that we've gained through Northwestern University in Chicago, through Ottawa in Canada, through London, and through some of their trials. The ideal person for this procedure, at least as of today, is under the age of 50 and has hot disease. They have relapsing remitting MS. They've got active lesions on MRI, and they have active relapses, and they've probably failed a couple of therapies. Does this procedure work in progressive forms of MS or in people over the age of 50? It doesn't look like it does it as well. That's not to say it doesn't do anything. It's just doesn't do it as well. And because the procedure carries some risk, it's high-dose chemotherapy. There is a period of time of at least a month where you have no immune system. So any little bug that comes along could be a big problem. You want to be very thoughtful about who's doing this procedure. Right now, we're in a strange place. The procedure is not FDA approved yet in the United States. Northwestern in Chicago was one of the bigger centers doing studies. They're on hold right now. So we have individuals who are interested in this procedure who are looking at places overseas. Clínica Ruiz in Mexico, the centers in Moscow are probably the two most common places we see people going to. And you've really got to do your homework and just go into it with your eyes open. Doing an aggressive procedure like HSCT overseas and then getting on a plane probably a month later after the procedure and coming home there are certain risks associated with that. If you have a complication, it's not like you're going to pop back on a plane and go down to Mexico or go to Russia and get a quick follow-up. So normally when people have these procedures done, they're not going back for any follow-ups at those facilities. So you want to make sure that your local healthcare team knows what you're doing and that you have a backup plan if something were to happen once you get back here in the States. Just within the past 2 months, the National MS Society has issued a position on HSCTs acknowledging that this is a legitimate treatment. It is a legitimately very effective treatment in the right person. And so that we definitely need to support further research. The paradigm in managing MS has shifted towards being probably more aggressive right up front when someone's diagnosed. So we're using a lot more medications like Tysabri and Ocrevus at the time of diagnosis. And so that concept is called induction therapy. Let's put the fire out as completely and quickly as we can right up front with MS. Well, if that's true, HSCT is probably the most effective way you can put the fire out. So it wouldn't surprise me if at some point in the future, there are individuals with MS, relapsing forms of MS, who are looking at HSCT as their first line treatment at some point in the future. So stay tuned. We'll see where all of that heads. So let's do a electronic one for the next one. So type your answer or hit that raise hand button. Which of the following is not likely associated with a higher risk of MS? Is it A, Epstein-Barr virus, B, mercury amalgam fillings, C, low vitamin D levels, D, having a parent with MS, or E, childhood obesity in girls? Which of those is not likely associated with a higher risk of MS?
That's a hard one, huh?
Yeah.
Let's see. Have both, well, oh goodness, we have Ryan, Debbie, Sandra, and Barbara all say E.
So we got a lot of E's. E is not correct.
Karen said B as in boy.
Who's Karen said B? Karen.
Yep.
Karen, absolutely correct. So interestingly, all of these other things have been associated with a higher risk of MS, including childhood obesity in girls. So if your mom or dad has MS, your risk of MS in your lifetime is about 2.5 to 3%. So it's low, but it's higher than someone who doesn't have a parent with MS. Vitamin D clearly has an association. Epstein-Barr virus is one of a number of viruses that it's not that it causes MS, is that it may be one of the viruses that can fool your immune system because it looks enough like some of the proteins in myelin. It can send the genetically susceptible person down this autoimmune pathway. Mercury amalgam fillings, there's been a lot of misinformation over the years. There are dental practices who do a lot of business in taking out mercury amalgam fillings. What studies have shown is there is no correlation. Mercury is toxic. It is neurotoxic. If any of you are familiar with the phrase "mad as a hatter," that phrase came because hatters in the 18th century used mercury to cure the felt in hats, and they went crazy from the mercury exposure. So mercury is not a healthy thing, but the amount that you would get through mercury amalgam fillings is not neurotoxic. These are not used much anymore anyway. You know, if you have a mouthful of mercury amalgam fillings, I do. If you wanted to get them taken out for cosmetic reasons or they're breaking down, that's fine, but I wouldn't do it specifically for your MS. So the next one, let us go to a real hand raise. Which drug is not used to treat MS bladder symptoms? A, tizanidine, B, oxybutynin, C, DDAVP, D, tolterodine or Detrol, or E, I'm going to go with Myrbetriq. So which of those is not used to treat bladder symptoms in MS? I think we're doing a real hand raise on this one.
I don't see any real ones. Oops, I do see Brian and, well, I don't know who was first. Let's go with Brian. Unmute yourself, please.
That would be letter A, tizanidine.
That is absolutely correct. So tizanidine is one of our antispasticity drugs. B, D, and E are all used to treat an overactive bladder. So if you have a bladder that's got the gotta go symptoms, it's small overactive bladder. You can use these drugs to help relax that bladder, let it fill up a little bit more. DDAVP is an old school drug. It is a naturally produced hormone from the pituitary gland. And what it does, it tells your kidneys to back off on urine production. We sometimes give this as a bedtime dose. If someone's having to get up and empty their bladder a lot at night, and maybe you don't want to add more of one of these other bladder medicines, technically DDAVP doesn't work on the bladder, it works on the kidneys. It's only for bedtime use, but it can get you through the night without having to get up quite as frequently. It can be a nice addition to your toolbox. So I think we're going to go with a electronic on the next one. And I think this is going to be our last one because I think we're getting shorter on time. And this one's near and dear to my heart. Urban legend has it that this company invented Santa Claus. Let's do electronic on this one. We're getting any answers there?
On a chat, I have actually two people. Debbie said Coke. And
Debbie is correct.
Is she really? She was the first one to chat that.
So it is Coca-Cola. So the reason that one's near and dear is that we're here in Atlanta, so we are the home of Coca-Cola. My family and I, interestingly, were just this past Sunday, we're at the World of Coca-Cola, which if you've never been to, is really very cool. It's a lot of the history of Coca-Cola, and they actually, in a big safe there, have the secret formula to Coca-Cola still stored in there. And if you think that there's not a serious rivalry between Coca-Cola and Pepsi, it's serious. If you wear anything with Pepsi on it, they will not let you in. If you have a Pepsi shirt on, they will ask you to buy a Coca-Cola shirt. One of my friends does lighting and stage sound and light, and was setting up an event at the World of Coca-Cola, and one of their truck drivers drove into the back gate area drinking a Pepsi, and they told him, finish it, throw the can away before you come on the property. So they are not playing. So,
wow, that's amazing.
Thank you all very much.
Yes.
It was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We still need to do our random number generated.
Yep. I even have a name. I have a name. Casey did that. Let me just say that if you missed any part of this conference, it's going to be replayed on msfocusradio.org and available on demand on our MS Focus SoundCloud page or our YouTube page. So remember to follow MS Focus on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram for times and access information. We're hoping that you can join us for our next teleconference, which is 2 days from now on Thursday, December 17th, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's Eastern time. We'll be featuring Dr. Adam Chaffetz, the program coordinator for the Comprehensive Multiple Sclerosis Center at the University of Florida Health Center. He'll be discussing copays, COVID, and more, the total MS care in 2021. Our sincere thanks to Dr. Thrower and all of our attendees for participation. Dr. Thrower, he actually donated the $100 gift card that's going to be provided to Terry Schuster, because she won the drawing, the random drawing. And the $100 gift card, if you let us know where you live, will be sent to you. So I'm going to encourage all of you that answered a question correctly to please go to your email that we sent you by email, telling you the link to get in today. Return that to the person who sent it to you, and we'll be able to reach you to get the information how to send you our little care package and also the gift card for Terry. Okay, our sincere thanks to all of our attendees for your participation, and especially Dr. Thrower, who we can't thank enough for your time, expertise, and your humor. I love your stuff. So goodbye, everyone, and thank you all. Be well.
Thank you. Happy holidays.